In this lesson, we're going to be taking a look at adding some conditions to your scripts. So running scripts conditionally or running certain actions in your script conditionally. So to illustrate this topic, I have a dashboard with an input, a button, and a label that doesn't do anything yet. So first off, let's look at running scripts conditionally. So then making an entire script run or not run based on a condition. So to do that, I'm going to add a script to my label. My script will be an onState change script. I want to fire when the button changes. So I've got panel.input. Just make sure of that. So panel is my scope and input is my relative ID. I want to change the color of the label. So I'm just going to do a set state. And now as soon as the input changes, we should see that running. So let's say we only wanted to make this run when the input value changes to a certain string. So to do this, we add a match to the trigger. Match is an array of objects, so each match will be an object. A match needs an operator. There'll be a link to all the operators in this lesson. What I'm going to do is equal. The value I want to check is the states of the input, so that's panel.input scope ID value, and the compare value will be, let's make it 1, 2, 3. So now when I type into the input, it doesn't actually fire until the value is the correct value. We can add another one, so I can copy to the script, and we can change the color to blue when the value becomes ABC. So then we have two scripts, one with a match in its trigger for 1, 2, 3 as the input value, and one for the value of ABC of the input value. There's the red, and there's the blue. So that's how you run a script, an entire script conditionally. You might also want to run just certain actions conditionally based on the same triggers. So let's say we will still want to have this this onState change trigger over here. Let's remove the match because we want the script to run every time. We want to change the, let's say the color. We'll make the color red, but we also want to make the font size larger when the value is something specific. So let's just test it out first. I want to do font size, and the value will be 120px. So now we should see both running as soon as I type into it. Maybe a little bit too big. Make it 48. So as soon as I type anything into it, you can see this result. But we want to only change the font size if the value is 123 of the input. So to do this, we need the applyComparison script action. And applyComparison works the same as a match. We need an operator as well. It's just not inside a match array. Is equal. Still specify the value. And the compare value will still be 1, 2, 3. Now to specify what to run in the case that it is true, we specify there's a branch for this action. Branch is an object. We specify the path for true and as well as false. We can only specify one if we only need one of them. So in this case, we only want to do something when it's true, meaning we can ignore the false if we want to. And now I can just put this action inside this true array. So this true array is just an array of actions that will run when this comparison was true. So now I do the set state color red always, and then apply the comparison. And if the comparison is true, I also set the font size. So after the first type, see the value the color becomes red, and only once the full value is correct, we see the font size changing. We can also use a case statement in an applyComparison. To do that, we change the operator to case. We don't need a compare value. But now we can look at the value of the input and do certain things conditionally. For example, if I type the word red, I can make well, actually, let's make it big. When I type the word big, I can make the font size 48px. What am I missing over here? There we go. I can also, sorry, this is wrong. I need to put this inside a branch. So we still have branch, no matter if you're doing a case or a condition. And inside our branch, which should be an object, of course, we can specify I want to do something when it's big, action over there, and I can do something when it's small, and action over there. Just copy this one. So there's our one for big, our action for big, and for small, let's make it 20px. So now let's type into this. There's big, and there's small. If we didn't just have a simple single comparison to perform for this trigger to evaluate if the script should run or not, we can also specify multiple. So let's go back to our match and specify an operator is equal. The value being state. This again, and the compare value 1, 2, 3. Or we could specify ABC. Now we'll see that if we type in either of those, sorry, excuse me, not either of those, both of those would have to be true because of our match evaluation. If both of those were true, we could run the script. This is where we need match evaluation. So by default, this is all, and we could make it sum. So there we see it firing for 1, 2, 3, and it will also fire for ABC. So match evaluation can be set to sum. By default, as mentioned, it's all. It can also be set to none. So if the value we type isn't an A or a B, but something else, then the script will run. So typing an A, it doesn't fire, but typing a C, it does fire. These kinds of composite evaluations or comparisons work a bit differently when you're working with applyComparison. Matches are kind of a special case, but with applyComparison, we can get even more complex with these evaluations. So I'll put our applyComparison back. Now I can specify also all or some or none. Let's do all. And now I can specify comparisons because I need to specify multiple comparisons that I want to check. I'll throw that in now. Let's just make our branch quickly. So when all of our comparisons are, this needs to be an object, of course, when all of our comparisons are true, I want to set the state of the color property to red. So I'm just going to have a bunch of hard-coded ones here to illustrate the topic first. So for all these comparisons, all of these are still individual comparisons, so they need an operator. Is truthy for this one? I'll just say value true. Copy another one for value false. So now whenever the input changes, I'll check are all of these comparisons true, and if they are, which of course they are in this case, we'll set the color to red. So typing any letter will fire that for us. We can also nest these, so I could change this operator to let's make it none, and now I need comparisons again. Maybe one like this. and is false here again for true. So none of these are true. This one is false, false. So this operator or this comparison will be true. This one is true. So all of these are true. Meaning whenever we type, we should see the color changing. Now where it gets more complex is when we have script accesses, like state accesses inside our comparisons, and that's because these comparisons are now nested objects. We no longer have simple scripts that are just key value, key value, key value, where the values are all primitives like strings or numbers or booleans. We now have nested arrays and objects inside our comparison, meaning we need to be more specific to the script and to this action when the accesses need to be replaced. So to illustrate that, I'm going to just remove this entire block, so we just have one over here. So when all of these are true, we want to fire. But this one is now going to be is equal and an access over here, states dot panel dot input, the value again, and the compare value I want to use will be 1, 2, 3. So when it's equal to 1, 2, 3, we want to change the color to red, but you'll see that it doesn't actually fire properly. So what we can do to test this is I can put a log in here, just say log true for this action, so we can see exactly what the action looks like when it runs. This is a good way to debug this kind of thing. I'll type in 1, 2, 3, debug this last one, or just check this last one, and you'll see that if you look at comparisons, the value is actually still the accessor. It did inject the scoped ID for us, but it didn't inject the accessor value, the value of the string, and that's because of the fact that we now have a nested accessor, which the script doesn't know it needs to replace. There's a very specific reason why we don't drill into objects and replace all the accesses we find, which we'll cover in the next lesson. But for now, all you need to know is that we specify an ID for the script, which I already placed previously. I have an ID for the script being SSC. When you do specify an ID, try and keep them short, and we do stick to the standard of all script IDs starting with an S. For no particular reason, it's just what we all do. And after that, we have 2 letters. In this case, it can be 1 letter or 2, 3, maybe even more. Not commonly more than 4 letters. That just kind of specifies what the script does. It's not important that the letters are useful in that way. It's just a nice way for yourself to, when you think of the script ID, just to think of what the script does. So in this case, it would be S for script, and then 2 letters, SC for set color, because the script sets the color. It's just a quick way kind of to come up with these names. So what we can do is put the script ID in front of this accessor. So right in front of the state, I can do ssc.state. And then if we log this still, you'll see that it did actually inject this properly. So if I type an X over there, check out my comparisons, we'll see the X is in there instead of the whole accessor still being there. So if I type 1, 2, 3, we'll see our script running. A final thing you can do that we'll cover in this lesson for conditions is if you just have a single script action in which you want to run conditionally, you can give that script action an action condition. So if you want to just go back to where we were over here, just replace this properly over there, I can specify an action condition which looks the same as a normal condition. So again, we need an operator is equal 1, 2, 3 again. But now, as before, again, we'll add the log because we know it won't work. As before, we'll see that when we do type in 1, 2, 3, we see that the condition still has the full accessor in that. So when you see this kind of thing, when you do log your actions, you can always know that this is because, or almost always, know that this is because of a scoped accessor that you need. So copy this, put it in there, and now you'll see that this action runs conditionally. So as mentioned, we'll discuss these nested accesses in the next lesson, but this should give you enough ammunition to get started with conditions in your scripts.